NBC News reporting local law enforcement agencies are preparing to ramp up a controversial program allowing them to partner with ICE to bolster manpower amid Trump's deportation efforts. Trump was clear in his campaign, and now he's making it priority one. Here with me to discuss is Mark Thompson, radio host, reverend, and civil rights activist, and Lee Galernt, attorney and deputy director of the Immigrants' Rights Project at the ACLU. Reverend, I will start with you. I know this is not everybody's belief system, but from a moral perspective, many of the places that are sanctuary cities in the United States are looking after people who are distressed, who are in danger, who have been victims of policies that sometimes have been supported by previous American administrations. So just from a moral standpoint, what does it say about this incoming administration that they're trying to kick out the least of these during the season where we're supposed to be looking after those who can't take care of themselves?
Well, first of all, let me commend you, Dr. Johnson, for choosing this topic in this season, and particularly on Thanksgiving Eve, when Thanksgiving, there would be no Thanksgiving if it were not for immigration. It was the early colonists who immigrated here and took over the land, and that is why we celebrate Thanksgiving, obviously, because of some peace that was made to commemorate this day, although it's questionable whether that peace really happened. So morally, yes, this is out of order. And if Trump would ever bother to open the Bibles that he's hawking, it said, "Cursed is the one who does not provide justice to the foreigner or to the immigrant." I don't think they can do anything, Jason. I don't think they can do anything in these cities, but it serves a purpose, because his supporters like to see the bluster. They like to see the saber rattling. I don't think they can go through with it, and they know they can. It is impossible to do it. Not only is it impossible, it is morally wrong.
So, Lee, I always say this, I'm not a lawyer, I don't play one on TV. Legally, what standing does the incoming administration have to force cities to deport people who are in sanctuary cities? And I want to make it clear to the audience, oftentimes people in sanctuary cities, they may also be refugees. They may actually be here legally, even if they are not documented, because they've been accepted as refugees. So is there a legal standing to what the Trump administration, incoming Trump administration, claims they want to do?
Yeah, well, thanks for having me. I think there are going to be enormous court battles if they try to cut funding. Those occurred during the first Trump administration. I think they're going to be heightened now, and I think you are going to see blue states pushing back to say, look, you can't cut our funding for these reasons. How those play out, we'll have to see, but I think those are going to be enormous legal battles. But to your point, I mean, we're talking about going into cities, not just blue cities, all cities, rounding up people who have been living here for a long time, contributing, don't have criminal convictions. It's going to result in families being separated, U.S. citizen children being sent to foster care. It's not good for the economy. It's not good as a matter of policy. And we will do everything we can to stop it legally to ensure that we have a balanced immigration system. Look, we're not oblivious to the fact that people want immigration reform. But I think when people see what they're proposing in practice, not just sort of, bland statements, but actually what it looks like in practice, I think people will hopefully push back and say, well, we don't want families to be separated again. We don't want the military in our streets. So we'll see how that plays out. But it's going to require more than just the courts. It's going to require the public saying, wait, that's not what we meant by immigration reform.
Very quick, because we're running up on a break. Reverend, I want to play you just a quick clip from Steve Miller and get your response on the other side.
Who's going to stand up and say the cartels are gone, the criminal migrants are gone, the gangs are gone, America is for Americans and Americans only?
Your thoughts really quickly on whether or not America will have a problem with seeing this happen.
Well, I think as has been said, people will realize what this is and turn against it. But unfortunately, we're about to see the application of WWE entertainment and sparring applied over the next 4 years. That's all this is about. It's a sensationalism and it's drama.
Both of you, please stick around for a moment. I want to turn the spotlight on Democratic mayors nationwide. Trump's border czar, Tom Homan, threatening Denver's mayor with jail time after he voiced resistance to deportation plans. Now, Hoboken Mayor Ravi is gearing up to take on Homan for a second time. He made headlines in 2018 for tweeting, quote, "Bring it on," a response to similar threats. Bhalla designating Hoboken a sanctuary city at the time, his first official act. Joining me now is Hoboken Mayor Ravi Bhalla. Thank you so much, Mr. Mayor, for joining us this evening. I'm going to start with this. I appreciate your bravery. I appreciate your boldness. 2018 is not 2024. You have an incoming administration that says they will literally use or attempt to use the military to forcefully deport people. As a mayor, what would you be able to do if the Trump administration says we're going to send armed troops into Hoboken and pull people out of sanctuary cities, pull people out of buildings based on whatever list that we have?
Well, thankfully, we have something called the U.S. Constitution and the Constitution of the state of New Jersey that protects our rights. In 2018, the AG Graywall passed an immigration directive that said that in the state of New Jersey, local law enforcement is supposed to be for local law enforcement and will not cooperate with federal authorities in the enforcement of immigration policies. We codified that here in Hoboken through an executive order to make sure that we expend our local tax dollars and our local resources to prioritize local issues. So if they come in, we're not afraid of the authoritarianism drumbeat of the Trump administration. We've seen that movie before. We're ready for it. We're really focused on making Hoboken a safe place from a public safety standpoint. We have a deficit in law officers. We have issues with public safety, with homelessness. We're focused on local priorities. And we want our local tax dollars to be expended on local priorities. And that's what we'll do here in Hoboken.
Mr. Mayor, thank you for pointing that out also, that you have sort of a legal backing for being able to resist this. I keep seeing terrible images from that movie about 15 years ago, The Siege, where they were literally just taking people and putting them in camps in the city. My next question for you is the threat. There's a stick and a carrot, right? You know, if you obey in advance, then maybe the Trump administration would just come and yank people out of sanctuary cities. But they're also threatening to take federal funding. What do you think is a city's response to that threat? I mean, would you just be tied up in court saying, hey, the federal funds that you say that you're going to take away aren't connected to sanctuary cities? How would you fight the battle of the federal government pulling money away?
Well, first of all, there's a lot of machismo and testosterone-driven policies by the federal government. This fear-mongering about yanking people and cities like Hoboken and other cities across America harboring illegal immigrants, like we're scuttling them away in tents or closets. It's just not true. Mayors are on the ground. We fight, and we have a pulse of a city. Hoboken is a fair and welcoming city, and if those threats of federal funding are levied against us, they lost in the last administration. We challenged those policies. They lost because our Constitution, New Jersey, protects us. There's a bill pending in the New Jersey State Legislature, the Immigrant Trust Act, which I urge the legislature to pass quickly. And that is a codified policy which will give us protections if these threats of federal funding are actually attempted by the federal government.
And Mr. Mayor, one last question, and I so appreciate, again, I cannot express enough how much I appreciate your bravery in the face of this authoritarianism. Have you had an opportunity, or have you reached out to other mayors? Are mayors, the National Alliance of Mayors, are you getting together and sort of swapping policies so that other cities that have sanctuary cities can learn how to protect themselves? Because I think that what you're laying out here might have to be a roadmap for other places around the country.
Absolutely. Mayors across America are on the front lines of defending the rights of ordinary citizens in our cities. So we always work together. We always trade ideas. We always talk about policies, develop best practices. And that time could not be more critical than right now when we are again on the front lines. I will emphasize once again that we are focused here in Hoboken on the priorities of the residents of Hoboken, and those are very bread and butter issues. And those are where our tax dollars, our budget really needs to be focused on. If the federal government wants to spend its money on fear mongering with immigrants and demonizing immigrants, let them spend their budget on that. But they're not going to spend our budget in Hoboken and other cities on these types of tactics. I can tell you that, and I can bet you many mayors across the city would say the same thing.
I would love to be on that mayoral group chat. Mayor Ravi Bhalla of Hoboken, New Jersey, thank you so much for joining us tonight on The Beat.
Oh, thanks for having me. Appreciate it.
Mark Thompson and Lee Galernt are back with me. Mark, I'll just start with you. I've never said I'm ready to move to Jersey, but I'm impressed that mayor seemed to have both a moral, philosophical, and legal set of actions that he was prepared for. What's just your first reaction to that short interview?
Well, it was strong, and I think what he's doing is indicative even of some of the other mayors you named at the opening of the segment. Mayor Brandon Johnson in Chicago is a good friend. These individuals that we know are going to stand up. They're not just going to roll over for Trump. And that's very important because these are people who were there. Many of them, as you said yourself, Jason, are there legally, and they should not be treated in this way. And individuals, you know, we've talked ad nauseum about people voting against their own interests earlier this month, and perhaps even putting their loved ones in a position to pay the consequences of their vote. Folks are about to have a very, very serious wake-up call, and probably it's time for that to happen.
Lee, very quickly, because this is just something, when I talked to the mayor, you know, he said, hey, look, we've got laws, we have constitutional things in New Jersey that protect us. I'm seeing an incoming petty, angry administration that might do things like, well, maybe we can't snatch money from the city, but maybe we'll take federal funds out of the surrounding highways or something else like that. Is that the kind of thing that an incoming administration could do? And what would be the legal remedy that a state or a governor or a state legislature would have to engage in to protect themselves?
Yeah, well, I think we're going to see a lot from the Trump administration. I think it's going to be much worse in the first term, and I think they're going to use every means possible. And, you know, how those court cases will play out, we'll have to see. But I think people are ready to go to court, as you heard the mayor say, and we are ready to go to court. But what the mayor was saying was very important, because it's not just Democratic mayors, it's Democratic and Republican mayors. They don't have time for a lot of grandstanding. They are working in their communities. They are seeing immigrants revitalize their communities, working hard, contributing to their communities. And so it's not a partisan issue for them. They see that immigrants are contributing and don't want to have immigrants being pulled out of their neighbors or scared to come out of their houses.
Mark Thompson and Lee Galernt, thank you so much for starting us off today with this vital topic.
Thank you, Dr. Jason.
Thank you.